what better way is there to start your morning besides drinking some liberal leftist tears? Michael Knowles once again bringing the smackdown from the Daily Wire. It's no wonder that these professors, these leftists don't want to debate people of that nature, of that level. When you see just the utter destruction that some of these people on the right are capable of when they approach such indefensible ideas such as transgenderism in an actual civil discourse, just how quickly some of these just posh ideas can be just snuffed out with a little bit of reason and logic. And so without further ado, here is Michael Knowles once again slaughtering a leftist on the idea of transgenderism.
Hi, Mr. Knowles. My name is Kat, and I have a question. And before I state my question, I just want to honor that we are all standing on the land that belongs to the Ojibwe Anishinaabe people.
Thank you for mentioning that. I meant to mention that at the beginning of my speech, but I'm glad that
Dakota,
you put.
Northern Cheyenne, and
Michael Knowles is phenomenal at what he does when it comes to just like the ability to keep like the politeness and shut people down. Okay, let's go.
And they have been here for time immemorial, and so that leads into my question. So you make the statement that transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely, and so I'm going to ask you a question about that, but prior to that, I want to just state that for 5,000 years BC, Gala transcribed and androgynous trans priests of Sumerian goddesses have been around and noted. 200 to 300 years before Christ in ancient Greece, there were gods worshipped by Gali priests who wore feminine attire and identified as women. Since we are standing on Anishinaabe land, Turtle Island, which is the nation that we live under, has
I don't live under
two-spirited
Turtle
people.
Island.
All right, well, maybe you should read a little more Indigenous knowledge books. Indigenous communities have used two-spirit personas for the entirety of their culture, and so that leads me to my question. When you say that transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely, I ask you, Mr. Knowles, how can we eradicate something that has been here as long as humans have?
Well, yeah, there have been all sorts of crazy, terrible ideas for a very long time, too. You're pointing to civilizations that committed human sacrifice, okay? You're saying that some ancient...
She gets hit. You see a little bit of disbelief, like, duh. Girl, you're the one who just read off the history. How do you not know this?
pagan tribe worshipped demons and therefore we need to castrate children. That's not a good argument. Yes, that's true. There were all sorts of terrible tribes. In fact, as recently as a little over 500 years ago, the Aztecs here in the Western Hemisphere slaughtered 80,000 people in a sacrifice to one of the demons that they worshipped within the span of 4 days. That's not a recommendation of doing that. I don't think that we ought to consider it. Though, unfortunately, in our increasingly pagan and liberal culture, we do commit human sacrifice to the tune of 800,000 babies a year sacrificed through abortion, and it would make
100%. That's on point.
The Aztecs blush what we do. But that doesn't make it the right thing. You refer to a notion that is increasingly popular on the left, which is the idea of the two-spirit among various indigenous tribes. That is not real. That is a contrivance of white liberals in America. There have been various conceptions of sex and gender for all of human history, but the idea of the two-spirited indigenous intuition of some modern transsexual living in New York City who's a man who very much desires to be a woman, that is a complete fiction.
Yeah, the somehow the notion that because it existed way back then, it must exist now, and that there's like some extra credence that we must give this two-spirit persona because it existed previously. Like the argument itself falls flat.
Will not find that in literature dating very far back. So what does it say about the question itself? The question, regardless of what the ancient Sumerians believed before they chopped up little kids or whatever, is it true? Can a man really be a woman, and can a woman really become a man? We all know that the answer to that question is false. That's why Professor McCloskey pulled out of our debate at the last moment next week, because even a distinguished professor knows, he has the intelligence to know, even if he is transgender identifying himself, that he can't win that debate because the idea is indefensible.
100%. 100%. And I love that he still refuses to use their language as well. He goes, he himself, when he's specifically talking about this dude who decided, you know what, I'm going to hype up this debate with Knowles. I'm going to push out, and then, oh, like at the last minute, I'm going to back out. I'm going to call you a bigot. I'm going to say that you were threatening my life. It was going to be a fascist rally. Like, it's beautiful.
So the question becomes, how does one know that someone with the total physical appearance of a man, how can one know that that person really is a woman? Do you have an answer to that question?
To clarify, you're asking how can somebody know if they are a woman?
And how can I know if that person is a woman? If not by the physical attributes, their natural and enduring biological sex. What's the alternative to that?
Easy answer. Can't. Body parts. Only way. Continue. Next.
So my response to you is then a question of, what is the purpose of knowing another person's sexual identity but let me finish.
Yeah.
If it's not for the premise of reproduction, and there's no need to relate outside of that, then I don't quite understand why we would need to question or.
So this is what happens whenever you ask a transgender activist to explain even the basic premise of the movement, is they'll immediately say, well, who cares? Why are you so obsessed with this? I'm not obsessed with this. I'm not the one who started sending men into the women's bathroom and taking away their trophies and castrating kids. I'm perfectly happy with the way things have worked for thousands of years. It is the transgender activists who are trying to upend everything. And so I think it is at least my right to ask the question, okay, what is the premise of your movement? But they always deflect from that. They always withdraw from the debate. They always try to change the subject because there is no answer. So you ask me, well, what's the purpose of, why do you even care? What's the purpose of knowing someone's biological sex?
And I think that inherently proves the deflection of that exact question phrased in that manner proves his sentiment, which is that transgenderism is damn near indefensible. Like, the delusional, and then going to say, like, why do you care? Why do you care if it doesn't affect you? And then it's like, you look at the people who are espousing these ideas, they're the ones screaming with their heads off, like bloody murder. You know exactly what I'm talking about. All the feminists who get on their knees, like weeping with like signs in their hands, like, oh no, I'm dying. I have to be trans.
Well, for starters, because we have civil rights specifically for women in the United States. We have special bathrooms for women. We have special sports leagues for women. We have all sorts of special places and rights and privileges and that are for women that are not for men. So if now some men, people who at the very least appear to be men, are claiming a right to go into those women's bathrooms, then we either have to abolish all of the special rights and privileges that have existed for women for all of human history and are enshrined in our law, or they need to explain to me how those men are actually women. And they can't do the latter, and I'm not willing to do the former, and I don't think women across this country are willing to do the former, even if a few people have been so ideologically blinded that they would give into this kind of an absurdity.
And to back that point up, 100%. The amount of instances in tweets and news stories I've seen that you've probably seen about this trans man being violent in the bathroom, or these women being like, hey, dude, we're super uncomfortable with this guy in the bathroom. Like, who would have thought the Civil War would be happening at the public bathroom in the United States? But that's where we are. The worst thing that's about these kind of debates and these formats is like the person he's talking to was only as prepared as like they spent the last night previously like forming up questions because they wanted to go make sure they could go talk to Michael Knowles. The people who are like the professors at campuses and universities and are administrators who 100% back up these ideas and who are like the academic figures of this are the ones who back out of the debates and don't give the extra credibility to these platforms, all in all leading to the cycle of all the other woke leftists going, he won't debate any of us. He won't debate any of us.
Exquisite connoisseurs of the academics of the LGBT
alphabet soup people. And it sucks because it's like, it is literally, again, the right, people on the right going like, debate me. And when the chance comes for someone from a campus or university or someone who's at least decently well known in that sphere of knowledge, they'll back out. Oh, Michael Knowles is a fascist. Oh, I didn't feel comfortable. My health and safety was threatened if I would have debated him. And it's like, no, your career and your credibility for any kind of future in education, you're going to go up there one time just to get wiped on the floor with a smile from Michael Knowles. And with that, peace.